That's good. I formulate this answer anyway. All right, are we good? I am Brian Solis. What I do is I run a PR agency, a new media agency called FutureWorks, and I blog at PR 2.0. It's a blog that I share my thoughts and ideas about sort of where we are and where we're going in marketing and communications. Huh. I really, really like how you phrased that. Do I think that there is something between authenticity and creativity, and is it facilitated by the new technologies that are sort of what we define as the social tools? I think that it depends on the person, because I'm inspired. I'm inspired by people. I'm inspired by ideas. I'm finding those ideas and people in new places that I didn't necessarily have before available to me or readily available to me. I am finding that technology is bringing a little bit more of the dynamics of the real world online. But at the same time, it's also evoking this new genre of communication as well. And I think you referred to it as ambient intimacy earlier. I would say that in some regards, I agree with that. I do feel like we are forging relationships in a more intellectual and as well as deeper layers. We're interwoven with others in ways that we probably would never have had or enjoyed in the past. I think for the most part, however, I also find many cases of ambient irrelevance, because these tools are also allowing anybody. The barriers to entry are just so much lower in order to get engaged on Twitter or even Facebook or through whatever tools that we channel into a live stream, that there's a lot of garbage out there as well, right? I mean, tools like Twitter or Facebook or what have you have also introduced the idea that it's easier to publish a bunch of bullshit. And while you might befriend someone and continue a relationship for a little bit of time, you're either going to earn it or you're going to lose it. And there's definitely a lot to be said for those who do something about helping others and promoting others as well, because it's not just a selfless act. It's the value of the community. There are great people around us all the time, and to connect with those and also to bring other people to those. My salad is here. I had this way I was going to close the thought statement. I can't remember it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. We're in there. We'll make you look beautiful anyway.
I love that. Going through life, process by process in order to meet an end goal is formulaic and is ingrained in a lot of us because it was how we were raised, it's how our parents were raised, how their parents were raised. And I think one of the things that I've noticed just as a person, not as a professional analyzing any of the digital media strategies, is that it's almost like going back to what the Catholic Church had feared, that it was going to lose members back at, in the Middle Ages, so therefore it came up with these things to sort of instill inspiration and in those followers who would regain and keep faith in the church. So they did campaigns in order to do so. And I use that as an example because I feel that right now what's going on in terms of socialized media is that there is so much free thought being shared right now globally. It's not just setting the playing field for people in the United States or Europe. It's a global movement that I think is changing how we think about life, how we go through life, how we share experiences and stories. And I think what we're going to see is just a fundamental shift in everything about what are our priorities. I had a great conversation with a 15-year-old genius who has already created and sold several startups and applications. And the question was, does this guy even need to go to school anymore? And will kids in the future need to go through high school and study the same topics that we did in school, because everything is changing to the point where either that content is going to have to change or it's just going to become irrelevant, and it might actually hold them back on how to be successful in the real world in the future. I think that society is changing and in turn it's going to change how we structure our own goals, and in turn how we meet those goals. I think that it's going to open up a broader set of opportunities and ideas for us to pursue, ones that we might never have deemed or thought possible. And I truly believe that I'm accomplishing things that I never thought was going to be possible. And I feel that it's only because of the people that I've surrounded myself with, mostly whom are online, and they've opened my way of thinking. They've opened my eyes to see things differently, and I just have to imagine that me as part of a society which is much bigger than any one of us is. I think we're gonna start doing things a little bit differently, and I think we're gonna be I think it's gonna change a lot. Because there's a lot that we can all learn from each other, and I think what they're doing today is kind of paving the way for how kids are going to do it in the future as well. What they're learning, what they're remembering, what they're honing in on, and in turn what they're sharing and doing with their future is going to say everything, because it's not going to be anything like what we went through, right? It kind of coming back to the conversation about how society in general is going to change and evolve in terms of how we live our life and our goals and our life's objectives. Kids are just going to redefine everything. I think it's going to change the education system. It's going to change the institution in of itself of what we learn and when in our life, and in turn, I think they're going to be a little bit more responsible and capable of defining and creating their own destiny than we ever were. I think if you think back to even our parents, I mean, you got a good job because you graduated from a good university with good grades, and now there's so much individual expression and freedom and the ability to spotlight why it is that you are special, that today's youth and tomorrow's youth are going to be able to just create their own plan. They're going to be where they want to be as long as they're empowered and encouraged to do so. It's these kids that I learn a lot from as well. I mean, their level of dedication, inspiration, and focus on something that they find completely interesting is, I'm a product of ADD. Oh, did you see that?